When I started to really respect this and put it into every program I ever gave any client, they all got better stats. The data does not lie.
Richie is a former professional rugby player whose career ended early through serious injury, forcing him to rethink his purpose in life and rebuild from the ground up. He's since spent 15 years coaching others through health and performance, and according to a recent post, is now on a mission to live to 120.
Anyone listening to this now that wants to have more focus, more energy, wake up in the morning, feeling ready to go, if you can encourage and influence more blood flow and utilize your breathing to be more efficient, to take more oxygen into those red blood cells up into your brain, guess what happens? Everything gets better. If you can't, master your mind, there's no point pushing anything. Your mind is always going to override anything else if it's not aligned with your purpose, without fueled on the right passion, the right intention, the right driver. Mindset is absolutely key, and I think the only way you're going to do that is by giving yourself the proof that you're capable of more than you think, and then starting to prove that you're able to do the little things consistently so the bigger things become easier. You've got to start doing something that feels hard. If you're just doing the same thing that's kept you where you are, you're just going to stay exactly where you are. That might seem really obvious, but some people just never step out of the routine and the habits and the behavior that they have. Their attitude's never going to change because you never tested it.
Richie, welcome to the Modern Rituals podcast. We start every podcast with a quick fire round of questions. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Okay, let's do it. Right. Okay, first of all, sauna or ice bath?
Sauna.
Okay. Where do you keep your phone at night?
In my front room.
Very good. One habit you couldn't live without?
Meditation.
Nice. Give me one benefit of a 72-hour water fast that might convince me to do one.
Eyesight gets better.
Wow. Okay, wasn't expecting that. Okay, and what's the biggest misconception when it comes to breathwork?
That it needs to be something that you have to carve out lots of time for, and it needs to be convenient, whereas it's something that everyone's doing all day, every day. So that's just not the case.
Okay, fantastic. So on today's podcast, I'm joined by Richie Norton. So Richie is a former professional rugby player whose career ended early through serious injury, forcing him to rethink his purpose in life and rebuild from the ground up. He's since spent 15 years coaching others through health and performance, and according to a recent post, is now on a mission to live to 120. Now, Richie, I'm looking forward to learning how you plan on doing that. But first of all, I wanted to ask you about this fast, because I saw you recently did a 72-hour water fast. So what's involved in a 72-hour water fast, or what's not involved?
Okay, so this was my first ever proper fast. Before that, I'd only ever really done intermittent fasting. I'd never even done a full 24 hours fast. 24-hour fast deliberately, I'd say, with the right preparation. So this 72-hour one was quite a jump, and was pretty surprising how it had an impact on me in things that I didn't think were even possible.
Okay.
So if I had to break it down, fasting has been on my radar for quite a while. Men tend to do quite well with fasting. There seems to be some pretty substantial data and trials to see that men really benefit. There is a difference between men and women, and the age of men and women, things like that, but maybe that's a deeper dive for another conversation. For me, it was just the idea of experimenting. I like to think that I'm the first person that needs to experiment on anything I share, anything I teach, anything I coach. So I have genuine insights, right? Rather than just reading it out of a book or hearing someone else's experience. I wanted to do my own experiment. So the first thing was the hesitation of thinking, how am I going to survive without food? And it's the first thing that most people think, there's no way. I heard loads of feedback. I had lots of people comment all the way through, I never could have done that. I miss food too much.
Yeah,
and
I've tried a 24-hour fast, and I just thought about food the whole time. Yeah. So anything more just terrifies me.
Yeah, so that's the big part of it. If I was going to give you one thing that is what I think a lot of people are scared of, or they think is going to be an issue is the food. It's the mindset. It's their mindset of thinking that they can't do it. They're not capable. It's impossible. So if anything, it was the challenge mentally that I was excited to take on, to see if I could actually do it. I think if I was to give you one thing that I found probably the most profound was the mindfulness, because you do get bored. You do get a lot of time to think. Yeah. You get a lot of time that you normally spend making food, eating food, thinking about food, because it's so convenient. I realized it was the introspection, it was the self-awareness, it was the thinking about what comes up when you're in that place of really paying attention to what your body's saying. And it can get really loud. So that was massive for me. Amongst other things, but
are you able to think clearly when you're doing it? Because like my worry is that I don't have a 72-hour period where I'm not working or chasing after the kids, and I'm not having to be on some kind of like A game. So I just imagine that, you know, halfway through the fast, you just like run out of energy and you can barely even I don't know.
Well, I'll try and give you something that will encourage you to explore. And I can only answer this off my own experience, because I've done enough research to look at other people's experience to see what I can expect. But you're often then encouraged just to sort of just feel it out and see how you get on and listen to your body. The big part for me was just walking into it without any expectations, just prepared to put in the work, to commit to seeing it out no matter what I faced, no matter what my mind tried to do. But setting yourself up for a 72-hour fast, when you do have all those distractions, it's an extra distraction when you've got to, like me, feed the dogs that I had in the house twice a day, smelling dog food. I've never wanted to eat dog food so much in my life. I didn't, just to clear that up. But it was getting outside, it was creating space. I couldn't train. I thought I might be able to do a bit more training, but it was only dog walks and time outside, which I did 3 times a week. Again, without the phone, the most mindful you can be, immersing yourself in nature, really connecting to nature, really connecting to being with my thoughts and being with my breath and moving my body rather than just sitting indoors, festering, doing nothing. So you have to keep yourself busy. So I would say kids could be a great distraction. You just have to set yourself up. If you've got lots of food hanging around, if you've got things, if you can smell food, if people are cooking around you. It was quite rainy and gloomy and dark. So, you know, if you can go and do it when there's sunshine, because sunshine is an energy source that can fuel you, that can lift your mood. I had to do it in the dark depths of a moody winter day, which I wouldn't recommend. That's definitely an extra challenge. And try to keep distractions to a minimum. But what I mean by is food distractions, things that are familiar to you that you would normally just eat or drink, or what's the other thing? The training side of things, maybe the big part.
Yeah.
Because I train most days.
Yeah.
You get very weak.
Yeah. And
then there's this little turning point in the second day where you start to get this clarity, this feeling of energy coming through, you become less stagnant, and that nice refreshing energy comes through. And that's where I was mentioning my eyesight started to get better. The sleep was a bit disrupted, but my energy, as my body was clearing its system, I really felt that clarity. The mental clarity was something I'd never experienced before. So for me to get less blurry vision and less brain fog just in 2 days, that was big.
Yeah, I think I have never really thought about it for the challenge of it before. I've always thought people do it for some kind of health benefits, and I've always said, you know, I need a lot of convincing to do a 72-hour water fast. And I've always said, you know, there's surely easier ways to get health benefits, more enjoyable ways, like doing more cardio and strength training and all these kind of things that we know, and dialing in your diet. But I guess the challenge of it is a whole different way of thinking about it that I've never really considered before. I guess it's a challenge as much as doing a 100-mile ultra marathon is a challenge. And the way you talk about it as well is a bit more like a Vipassana, if that's how you pronounce it, the 10-day silent retreats where, there's a real kind of mindful element to it, and a kind of a deeper connection with yourself and with nature and everything without the distraction of food. And yeah, it's interesting. Never thought about it that way.
So with that point,
yeah,
you just highlighted probably the main driving force behind why I did it.
Yeah.
You would have noticed I've not mentioned all the benefits, like the autophagy, where you start to help clear out dead cells, and your body starts to clear out the system and starts to you cleanse your soul, and giving your digestive system a break, and allowing your system to kind of like reset. But for me, it was that challenge of really locking in and proving to myself I'm capable of the discipline. And with all the distractions, with all the things, all the temptation, I could hold like strong to my promise. Like, I'm going to honor my promise, and I'm going to just explore what happens and just kind of just ride it out as best I can and observe what comes up. And the way I've done that over my whole life has been calling on that approach to be more mindful and trust my body and know my body's amazing. So that self-talk, that belief in myself, reassuring myself, reaffirming that I'm capable of doing something that is hard. So I use this with sport. I use this for my coaching clients looking to beat a new challenge, or to lose some weight, or to overcome an injury or illness. You have to set the intention first, and then back that up with a strong enough reason to why it matters to you. And then the benefits are tenfold in my eyes, because you're getting all the physical benefits, but you're also building that resilience. You're building up that trust, that belief that you're capable of more than you think. And this is just one of those other extra tests we can do that also really help us on a physical level, not just a emotional, mental, psychological level.
Yeah. I guess, building that self-belief, that self-confidence is probably a big one. Believing that you're capable of anything, really. And that's, that's something that is hard for people to believe. And for me, I've tried to get it through all the endurance events, but not everybody's going to go out there and do an Ironman or something. So this is another way to do that, and to give yourself the self-confidence and believe in yourself that you can do something if you set your mind to it. So I can relate to that, definitely.
So I'm going to give you one more bit on that in case we lose our way, because if I was going to give you one core piece of insight to what I do with everybody, with any client, no matter what they come to me with, any program I've ever built, any talk I've ever done, any seminar I've ever taught, the more I go through the motions with people and really get in the trenches and see who's successful and who has the biggest takeaways, how it makes the biggest impact, it's when that person can really see and believe and feel they are capable of more than where they are in that moment. So there's no point, and I've worked with different people at different levels, the elite level, but also people just getting started. Maybe they've decided now's the time, I can't leave it any longer. It's not for me to then get them to try and do an ultra marathon, or go straight into lifting really heavy weights, or even just maybe even going doing any running. Maybe it's just the very baseline. So that proof that what they're doing is paying off needs to align with the level they're at and feel like they're making a step in the right direction. So that proof becomes something they see as a really, really early win that takes them from where they are, which is what they thought was their only level, to that next stage. So the more that person reinforces that by honoring that promise that they said they were going to do this, and they do it and they feel better for it, it becomes the building block. Just like anything else, you don't go and just do an ultra from first day of starting to run. You've got to build the foundations.
And you're like, if I can do this, then what next? Like, if I can do this, then what next? Like when my health kind of took a massive downturn when I hit 30, and I got loads of crazy health issues and symptoms and stuff, and and basically spiraled so quickly out of control that I literally got to the point where I thought I couldn't do anything anymore. I was like, is this it? Is it game over? Can I, you take your health and fitness for granted in your 20s, and you just assume you'll have it for decades to come, and then suddenly when the rug's pulled out from under your feet and it all goes, you're like, holy shit, is this the end? Is this the end? I'm like, God, I wasn't expecting it to come so soon. But then it's just through these baby steps and these small achievements that you can then start rebuilding that confidence. And then after a while, you're like, when I was finishing the 100-mile ultra in the last 2 hours, I was in floods of tears because I was just like, oh my God, I'm actually going to finish this. If I'm capable of this, what next? Where am I going to take it next? So it's just that kind of, building up that self-belief and confidence in yourself. So important.
Yeah. The little things. Yeah. Some people just need that little push. That little reminder to just start. If there's one thing I probably say a lot, it's that, just realize you're capable of more than you think. And you just got to begin the journey. I actually quite openly, I used to sort of hide how old I was in certain circles because I didn't want people thinking when I was younger that I was immature, so I'd pretend to be older than I was. Yeah. And when I got older, I didn't want people thinking how old I was because they thought I'd be past it. And they thought, because they'd have that vision or view of that person, being beyond what they're capable of at that age. But that was all me. That was just me mirroring my own view on the world. Yeah. So when I hit 30, the same sort of story, anyone knows my story, that's when I was at my worst, but that was self-inflicted. I really beat myself up, really didn't take care of myself at all, paid the price, got run down, burnt myself out. And what maybe a lot of people miss is it's because I just wasn't paying attention and I wasn't giving it the care that it needed. I wasn't doing the little things. I had no rituals. I was just pushing in every single way, ignoring all the signs, which is now full circle why I work with a lot of people that are close to burnout or they already have burnt out because I can help them rebuild. It doesn't have to be over. Yep. I'm 40, it's my 46th year now. And I now understand very clearly that our body is, first of all, amazing if you do take care of it, and you can rebuild and you can reshape and reform and adjust, reset, if you put the work in. And that can just be one step that takes you down a path that can completely transform the rest of your life. And everything that involves any kind of physical, mental ability, you can channel that energy to anything. Yeah. I feel like I'm honestly younger, mentally, physically, emotionally, more alive right now than I ever have, which is why I do say I'm living to 120 years old and I'm going to be punching when I get there.
There we go.
Why not set the bar at that level? My dad, if he listens to this, if he comes across this, is probably looking at me now thinking, shit. I wasn't like that when I was his age because he was my reference point. Yeah. And I was thinking, shit, when I get to 45, I'm going to be old. I'm going to be cooked. Yeah. That is so not the case. I could take on my 25-year-old me right now and probably beat him when he was in his prime. Well, what he thought was his prime. So if you're talking about insights, metrics to based on feeling, energy, focus, determination, and excitement for life, which is what everybody I hope is looking for. It's there. You just got to unlock it. And honestly, that's why I keep showing up every day.
Amazing. Right. So you mentioned 120. You're going to keep this going for quite a long time. So I want to dive into the weeds then. Let's get into the weeds of what your rituals and habits are that are going to help you keep going at this pace until you're 120. So maybe let's start with mornings, right? Let's just start with morning routines, because I know you've mentioned before about morning routines and sleep routines and these kind of things. So what do your mornings look like? So what time do you wake up? What are the first things that you do?
Okay. The morning is very important. So a good place to start. Mm-hmm. And the reason, I guess a lot of people are aware of this now. There's a lot more awareness around this being key. Start the day, win the morning. my mornings vary. So there's not like a consistent routine or practice, but there are some things that I need to make sure are non-negotiables in the best way possible. So let's make it realistic.
Yeah.
People that travel, people who are busy, people are on the move. I teach some sessions quite early. I train certain programs in a certain way, which require a little bit more of me. So hopefully that allows people to feel like it's relatable, that it doesn't always need to look a certain way at a certain time. But waking up with enough time to check in with you and your energy and your mindset, your emotional regulation, you know, your approach to the day needs to be dialed in. So this could be me waking up, going outside, usually morning light. It usually helps dictate how my evening goes if I can get out early when the sun is rising.
Yeah, I've heard people say a good night's sleep starts in the morning, meaning, you know, with morning light.
Yeah. I mean, there's enough data and studies there to show, you know, the circadian rhythm and your body's rhythm. The more you can be in that rhythm, and people be like, I've got young kids like, no chance, good luck. But if you can find a way just to go outside and think about the rising sun as you rise, and your power and your energy and cortisol and all these things that are naturally happening in your body. And if you align with that, that allows you to move with the setting sun at the end of the day as you wind down, as you calm the system, as you regulate all the up-regulation from your day. You're choosing to down-regulate as the sun is setting. It doesn't always need to be with the sun, but if you can watch the setting sun, you know, how the eyes take in all that light, it's hard to deny the studies. And also do it for yourself and feel it. I feel it. And also it's the idea of a routine. It's the habit. It's the opportunity to check in the morning and then check in at the end of the day. So if you jump to the evening, it's the same thing. So if I go for the morning, hydrate, if I keep it simple, hydrate the system after a few hours. We've really got to hydrate the system. So many people miss this big hack. Your body's so dehydrated, especially if you've been sweating a lot, especially if you train a lot, especially if you're in a hot area, especially if you're not someone who drinks a lot of water anyway, and you stay hydrated with enough minerals, with enough replenishment of the salts. And in the morning, it's when your brain, all the soft tissue, your muscles need that. So especially if you're training, that's a huge part of winning the day.
So start the day with what, like a pint of water?
I wouldn't even say it doesn't need to be a pint. It just needs to be a good glass of water. Don't just gulp the whole pint down. You kind of want to sip it over like half an hour or 10, 15 minutes. Otherwise, you're just going to pee it all out, especially if you're training.
Put anything in it?
Usually it's a pinch of salt or your favorite, you know, high quality hydration sachet. But I don't need to overcomplicate it. A lot of the time it's just, for me, it's like sea salt. And a fresh, and usually lemon, just for an extra bit of like vitamin C. It can be, I took this from my fasting. I used to put grapefruit juice in my water before the fast, because one thing we didn't touch on, just to digress, pivot a minute, the fasting preparation was key. It's not just about the fasting, it's how you prepare your body before you fast. So hydration and eating the right food to help your body digest and not be stressed out too much means no heavy foods, no red meat. It's mainly a plant-based diet, because that's the lightest way for your body to reset and to utilize the carbohydrates and the fiber and the micronutrients. But anyway, going back to the point, the morning routine, you know, how you're treating your body in the morning usually dictates how it's going to, you know, respond throughout the day. So I do fasted running in the morning. So hydration, black coffee, and so training days, that might differ, but I'll maybe share that in a moment. Because the morning is such an important part, and it's not just this physical part, it's the mental part. So most people wake up, let's be honest, most people are distracted by their phone, they're addicted to their phone, they feel they have to check emails and check social media, because of how the brain is ready and waiting to absorb. It's reset, it's refreshed, it's ready to work. And when it turns on, if what you're doing is feeding all this dopamine from just news, which often is very negative, and social media, which is often overwhelming, and then emails, and then life and work and all these things that are wrong in the world and all these things you need to sort out, you're just busy in this mind, which is then creating an emotional response, which then creates a physical response of that person feel anxious and panicked and overwhelmed for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Because they've never taken that time in the morning to actually kind of, right, where's Richie today? What do I need this morning? And if you listen when you wake up and you tap into what's going on, if you've got any common sense, you'll be like, do you know what? I don't want to go and look at the negative news. I actually need to go outside and go for a walk. I just need to slow down for a minute, take a few breaths, maybe write down what's on my mind and think how I want to approach today that aligns with the positive version of myself I want to be. And that can be 10 minutes out of your day that completely transforms the rest of your day and the rest of your week if it becomes a habit. And these are the foundations of things that I teach people. They think it's going to be some big, profound, overwhelming, like transformation and this big overhaul of life. But it's often those little things that compound in a positive way that give people that connection to what truly matters, to get that feedback, to respond differently and have a better day. Nice.
You mentioned around fasted running and training then in the mornings. So you run fasted. I
run fasted. I train with food. I don't weight train or anything like weight bearing. That needs fuel.
Right.
Muscles respond better.
Yeah.
You have better volume, better pump with fuel, and that fuel. I mean, personally, like it could be porridge, it could be yogurt, full fat yogurt. It could be, you could have eggs, toast, depending on how much time. I would normally say at least an hour if you're going to do that.
So like an hour before strength training, you recommend?
Yeah, that way you're not just digesting food and feeling a bit bleh. But it depends what kind of training. If you're doing sprint training or anything that's high intensity, then you don't want food that close to, you want to give it more time. So it could be something light, but I would never train on an empty tank, just like you wouldn't put no fuel in a Ferrari. I always think about that analogy, always helps. But when you're running, the key metric that I've found, and people might differ because everyone's bodies may be a little bit different and how they're conditioned. I'm 90 kilos and I'm only 5'10". So I've got muscle mass, I'm quite dense, I'm less efficient as a runner, but I'm also a very fast metabolizer. I smash through glycogen for fuel. So I can't do a long run, even a 5K, I will plateau. If I've had food, blood sugar spikes, feeling that fatigue, or even like nauseous sometimes, literally just like someone's taking the power supply. I'm like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Only happens when I eat. And especially if I leave it too long between eating and actually doing the training. Yeah. So getting that timing right is key. So in the morning, I hope I haven't confused anybody, I have to run within half an hour of getting up, otherwise hunger strikes, because Richie needs to fuel his body for the day.
Really? So you run within half an hour of waking up?
Within half an hour of waking up, give or take.
I find it takes a bit longer for my body.
With me.
Okay, I find it takes a bit longer for my body to like wake up, and my joints just to kind of wake up enough. But
let me break this down.
I guess I've got
a really important point.
Autoimmune arthritis, so it's slightly different to most people probably.
Well, I'm going to try and help you out here because movement is lubrication. Movement with breath work becomes mindful and more optimal because it improves oxygen uptake to the brain, to the tissues. So you're warming up and priming the system in that half an hour to prepare your body to be more efficient and ready to go to work.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm trying to give you something really simple here, but there are a few different things depending on the person. It could be a bit of a personalized approach. When I wake up, I wake up, brush my teeth, wash my face, wake up, have that routine. I jump around a little bit. I shake up my system. I'm big on lymphatic drainage and sort of allowing my system to warm up. So light little contractions, not smashing myself, because like you said, when you're cold, when you just wake up, your body needs time to get that blood pumping, to have the heart rate pump, to get the lungs to pump, to get the brain, to get the oxygen, to get it moving around the system. So the warm up. So with me in the morning, hydrate first of all, because I don't want to just be peeing out the water. I want to sip. So brushing my teeth, scrape my tongue, those drills, make sure my mouth feels fresh. I'm not just washing down all the gunk in my mouth that's sometimes there. And then pinch of salt, hydrate. I don't actually put lemon in. I'm a bit funny about, since I've done the fasting, because lemon still has calories, technically breaks a fast.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, apparently so. Right. So because fasting and utilizing your fat stores is a better energy utilization for me. If I have anything that has carbohydrates in it, my body will jump into using those carbohydrates as fuel and forget about the fat. So when I'm working on someone that wants to work on fat metabolizing more efficiently, so using your fat stores as fuel, which is usually better for longevity and longer sessions, you need to start to build up on that. If you're jumping from carbohydrate, glycogen stores to your fat stores, that's when you can have these big crashes, and it usually catches a lot of people out, and it's very hard to pull it back. So, God, I'm hoping I'm not confusing everybody now. Let me just refresh to make sure it's super clear. Because I think anybody who's active or wants to start getting more active, you need to understand how your energy systems work. And this isn't just for sport energy. This is for mental energy, for focus, less brain fog. And if you're just using stimulants and not utilizing how your body can produce better energy, your brain needs better blood flow to carry more oxygen to the brain. So anyone listening to this now that wants to have more focus, more energy, wake up in the morning, feeling ready to go, if you can encourage and influence more blood flow and utilize your breathing to be more efficient, to take more oxygen into those red blood cells up into your brain, guess what happens? Everything gets better. So why I train in the morning, or why I do something in the morning that raises my heart rate, it's for that reason. So with my dogs, it might be a walk in the morning. If you don't have dogs, just going outside, you're getting sunlight, you're moving your body, it's low impact, you're not overstressing the system. If you feel like you've got enough energy, you've got a bit more time, go for a little jog, go for a little run, ride your bike, ramp your heart rate up even more. So the reason this is pretty much a non-negotiable, and it should be for everybody, because otherwise you're just staying very stagnant. You're not utilizing that cortisol spike in the morning, which happens with everybody. People might just have loads of coffee and then just run on coffee. If we're going to talk about coffee for a second, I love coffee. It's got it's a great asset for me for many reasons, but it needs to be respected in a way where it's working in alignment with all your other natural powers, which so many people never capitalize on. So because coffee is also, it helps sort of get rid of that hunger that kicks in with me. Cheers. And also gives you a nice little boost in the morning, mentally, physically. It's great for a little 5K run in the morning. Pretty much it's a non-negotiable.
Can you drink coffee while you're fasting? Is that
yes.
So? In my mind, coffee doesn't break a fast, but
black coffee doesn't break a fast, but depends how hardcore you're doing it. Right. The traditional hardcore, diehards, I'm going to call them a diehard fasters. True fasters would be like just water. If you're just doing a water fast. Yeah. Coffee isn't water. You could say because of the coffee granules, coffee grains, it's not, truly fasting. But it's one of those things that can really help people out in their first fast, because the hunger suppression helps clear out the system as your body is detoxing and wanting to cleanse.
Yeah, I can imagine purists are probably saying no coffee, partly because it just makes it more difficult and makes it more challenging. And if you're doing it for the challenge, they probably want to make it as challenging as possible. There is actually a study which looked at fasting. It was an animal study, but there's only one of them, and they saw that drinking coffee during a fast accelerates your body moving into autophagy, so you get a bigger benefit from the autophagy, which is really interesting. So there could be some additional benefit that you're getting from coffee during a fast.
And you're always going to get purists who are like, no.
Yeah.
But I think it's whatever works for you, whatever helps get the job done. And you start to learn how you can get the most out of that practice. And not every practice works for everybody the same way.
No, exactly.
You've got to do your own experiments.
Yeah. Okay. So back to your mornings then. So do you take the dogs for a walk or a bit of a run? And how does strength training fit into this? Do you do this do you do it in the mornings, or you eat first and you do it a little bit later in the day? Or
Right. I train. I mean, it varies. I try and get 3 sessions in a week. That's kind of like the non-negotiable. Even if it's
are you
at
doing
home.
full body sessions, or are you splitting it up? Or
It varies depending on the program, how I'm feeling, what I have access to. If I'm traveling, if I get access to a gym, sometimes it's body weight, sometimes it's like body weight flow stuff. So I'll mix in sort of some yoga, which is mobility and flexibility, and push-ups, and if I've got a bar, pull-ups, basic body weight movements, squats, walking lunges. The core of it is if I have access to a gym, I'm lifting weight. Yeah. And I'm trying to push weight based on where I'm at, how I feel. I'm listening to my body. If my body is tired, I don't push it. If my body feels good, I do. The key part of training, if I separate running and training, running, I'll do 3 a week as well. And it might be a couple of 2Ks. If that's all I can manage, it might be 2 10Ks. That's pretty much my max effort when it comes to running. I don't do ultras. I've never really been into long distance, but I'm enjoying, again, testing my body in it and seeing what I'm capable of. And I want to be able to run for as long as possible, but I'm doing it in a very healthy way. So I'm building up the strength of my legs. I'm building up my body to be, if we're going to use the word hybrid, where I can run fast and I can run far, and I can lift heavy weights, and I can be explosive, and I do have that dynamic ability to kind of do any sport I want, because I know that's the key to longevity. The opposite of that is just pushing all the time, which so many people do, big distances all the time, don't do enough recovery, don't do enough strength training, or they just overlift, become too big, become dysfunctional, immobile, overstress the joints, and too much wear and tear, not enough recovery, not enough down regulation. And if we tie that all up, the nervous system, which is a massive piece of all of this, if you're not listening and working with that, you're swimming upstream, and it's going to catch you out eventually. So when people start to think about their training, where, let's say I've gone 3 strength training days, 3 run days, every single one of those days, I'm doing recovery just as much as I'm doing the training. That recovery could be a walk with the dogs twice a day. So I clock up my 10,000 steps if I give that as a guide. Yeah. It could be just having a stretch twice a day rather than being sat on my bum all day. It could be 10 minutes. And I'll prioritize sleep, getting better rest rather than watching TV, playing on my phone. I'll nap, I'll meditate, because I need to, well, everybody needs to do this. And it's honestly the biggest thing that I've learned in the years that I've been doing this. If you're not recovering and resting and recharging your body at the same level you're pushing it, it's going to be out of balance. So you're fighting your body, trying to shut you down to help you rest. But people think it's like a sacrifice and they haven't got time. But it's actually the unlock to get into that next level of speed, power, endurance, energy, better health. And it's crazy how people just don't respect it. When I started to really respect this and put it into every program I ever gave any client, they all got better stats. The data does not lie. And it doesn't have to be a big change. It just needs to be something you create as a ritual because you're listening and paying more attention. You have more self-awareness. Massive, absolutely massive, which is kind of why I lead with this now with everything that I do, because that, when you understand it, is your superpower.
Yeah. Wicked. Wanted to ask you about breathwork. So now breathwork's a massive part of what you teach, and it's been a big part of your journey for the last 15 years. Like, how does breathwork? How do you use breathwork in your daily routine? Do you do any in the morning?
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite lucky because I teach it every day with my clients.
Is that your online the Strength Temple? Is that
No, I have a few online. I have an app now, which is like a community app where I do live sessions every week.
Right.
And then I have an online program, a course that I teach in twice a week, which is group coaching. And then I also do one-to-one stuff, and all of it involves breath work every single week, as well as movement, as well as meditation. And I'm live. You know, I'm actually in there holding these people accountable. At the same time, I'm being reminded of how powerful this is most days. So that's
so you do it a lot for other people. Yeah. Do you do it for yourself?
Yeah. So this is it. So me being so aware of how much of an impact it's having on all their lives.
Yeah.
I get so much of it. I then have to remind myself to take time out to actually benefit for those sorts of practices on my own. The way I look at it is, because I'm outside a lot, my breath work is often sitting or standing out in the woods, and I might just take 5 minutes where I'm barefoot in the woods and I'm just following my breath, looking around and feeling my body actually slow down, and allowing my attention to be less scattered and in my head, and actually start to take in where I'm at. And the reason I share this, and it being so simple, some think that's not really going to do anything, but this is you really paying attention to what your mind, body is doing. And your breathing is directly signaling to the nervous system. As you get out of the head and you look around and you slow your breath and you take in your surroundings and you start to notice what's happening, your whole system is starting to settle, which is what we're trying to achieve with a lot of breath work.
Yeah.
The opposite of training breath work, when I do it often on my own, is when I'm training, I'm aware of my breath. My breath guides my practice. The tempo of my breathing gives me feedback on where I am on my level of exertion. So many people are distracted, not paying attention to their training, on their phones, not thinking about it, missing out on a massive performance hack. So that's when I'm doing it in training. Prep before training, fast breath, calming breath, centering breath, down regulation breath. Every single day, whenever I'm training, it's with me. But the mindfulness piece is probably where most people need to spend their time and attention, because that's something you can keep with you all day. So while I'm talking right now, you can be centering yourself, you can be composing yourself by slowing down your breathing, aware of your breathing, deepening an inhale, and then slowing down an exhale. That's breath work, that's breath attention, that's breath awareness. And it seems very simple, but so many people are just mindlessly floating through the day, stuck in their head, not using this performance hack.
Yeah. And you could use it for every part of life, literally.
All day, every day.
I use it so much. Before, right back to when I used to go to job interviews back in the day, before going in the door, I'd stand there and I'd do 3 inhales and then long, slow exhales. And it literally just ground you. And you go in there and just... suddenly it just turns off the nerves. It just seems to, for me anyway. And everything now. So now I do it's annoying because it's always the first thing to get cut from my days when I'm really busy is the breath work practice. But then at the minute I've got it back for the last couple of weeks where I'm doing like 10 to 15 minutes in the morning with a breath work app, like an up-regulating, energizing breath work. And I just felt like it's just it puts you in such a good... it's such a good high, such a good way to start the day, and then really energizes you. And then I do another one before I go to sleep, so like another maybe 5 to 10 minutes before I go to bed. But I feel, like you say, like while you're strength training, running, focusing on the breath, I've started trying to, when I run, I do 2 inhales and then 3 exhales, 3 beats, so I'm trying to, I'm hoping that will kind of keep my heart rate lower, and trying to keep a more relaxed running pace. But everything you do, totally.
If I was to give someone like a little tip there, and they can practice it right now. When you recognize a physical or emotional trigger or response, like I'm not feeling good, I'm stressed, I'm overwhelmed, I'm tired, I'm a bit stuck in an energy I don't want to be in. When you recognize those things, rather than just being reactive, it's bringing attention to a breath in, and that breath in is through the nose. And you try and expand into the lungs, so you open the body up, so you try and fill the chest up, you open up the heart space, and you try and let that breath out as slow as you can. When you get to that exhale, you pause, you keep nice and calm, you're thinking about pausing the breath so you find that stillness. The pause is quite powerful here because you get to sit with the practice rather than being in the mind. And then the next breath, when you feel that, you'll get the reminder, okay, now it's time to breathe in. You try and expand a little bit more, and then you try and slow it down again. And that's going to change. I'm not going to give you a time. I'm not going to give everyone like an expectation, but anchor yourself in the awareness of what's happening as you breathe in and pause, you breathe out and pause, and find a natural rhythm, with the aim being that you stop for as long as you feel you comfortably can, and bring yourself to that moment so you take control of where you're at physically, because it's often the thing that's bothering you is either in the past, in the future that hasn't happened yet, and you're overthinking something. The most important way to ground yourself in any situation, no matter what you're doing, is get a hold of your breathing rhythm. And because you can control that, that then feeds back to your nervous system to feel grounded and peaceful and calm and everything's all good. You make better decisions.
Yeah.
You conserve your energy. You have more focus. You are definitely more present in the situation. And that is with you all day. All you have to do is keep reminding yourself.
You know what I'd be so interested in is, so all these techniques on that, like they'd be so useful for, you know, professional rugby players. I imagine back when you were a pro rugby player, this kind of thing, breathwork, didn't really exist. You know?
Didn't exist at all.
It didn't exist.
Well, it did.
These days, does anyone?
In our world.
I like all the like pro rugby teams and stuff onto this now, because I feel like it would definitely help them. It feels like it should be standard practice before they go out onto the pitch. And
it's happening. Yeah, but yeah, I would have loved to have had this. I probably would have maybe had a slightly different career path. I probably would have lasted a bit longer maybe. But yeah, it definitely wasn't part of our training program at any point. I
feel like you're the man to take it to them. I think you need to be going out to like England rugby and getting them breathing. Wicked. So on the related topic, I've seen you quite big on ice baths as well. So do you have a regular practice or cold showers or ice baths? Do you have one in your garden?
Yeah, we've got a setup at the house.
Okay.
We go to the gym. We've got a setup there as well. Sauna, especially again while fasting, was really powerful, just to sort of get the system what feels like it's getting cleansed, having a good sweat, having the body really excrete all the stuff in our system.
Yeah.
So again, there's different benefits, as a lot of people will know. Me personally, if I'm there to try and push and see what I'm capable of and really get my heart rate high, as if my body is really training. So I'm trying to train my body to be more resilient in the heat and see if I can calm myself when the heat kicks up rather than just leaving when it gets tough. That's one thing I train. Making sure you're hydrated doing that, as well as then getting a good sweat out. So really helping all that sweat get out of the system, washing it off. I do a lot of the brushing in the sauna now to just help it get out of the system, help flush the system, help the lymphatic
brushing
drainage.
I've never heard of that.
Brushing, or
okay,
well, there's different things you can use. There's like little scrapers you can use where you just brush it while you're hot. You're getting rid of all the sweat, so it doesn't like go back into the system, but just helps the muscles, helps blood flow, helps get rid of all the waste in the system.
Right.
And the cold is the balance there. I don't go from one extreme to the next. I think a lot of people go from one extreme of the heat to the one extreme of the cold, and that's just usually a big shock to the system. Once the blood vessels have dilated and then you constrict them in the cold, that's where a lot of people can have problems. And it can be too much of a shock. You're not getting any time to adapt. But the cold for me is the biggest teacher, because it's what most people fear. And again, looking at data and looking at studies, how your body responds in the cold and how good it is for your system and inflammation and that feeling of that rush and that energy and the extra blood flow that comes afterwards and the flushing of the system, reducing any pain and issues you have with the body if you've been training quite hard. Always really powerful. Never really understood that at rugby either. We had a lot of hot baths at rugby.
Right.
We sometimes had cold baths if they didn't have the heating on. Sometimes that was punishment. But we weren't using it in the same way we use it now. So yeah, cold showers if I don't have a cold bath, cold seas, cold lakes, cold ponds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And are you one of these who do the ice baths and try and get it down to ice floating on the water?
If I can,
2 degrees.
that's the best way to do it.
Really?
The colder the better for me. If it's somewhere in the middle, it just feels a bit weird. So I'd rather have it as cold as it possibly can be. One, so you don't have to be in there for ages. But also just the feeling of the ice around you. It's a weird, maybe a bit sadistic kind of feeling that you're surrounded by these big ice blocks, so it's cold. Yeah.
Okay. I think most of the science and the health benefits of ice baths, it's not actually that cold. It's something like 12 to 14 degrees to get the health benefits. But I think the psychological, when you get down to the 2 or 3, 4 degrees, then it's more the psychological benefits, I think.
Yeah,
seems to me.
And I'll add to that, because I've done quite a few workshops and retreats using the cold water as one of our challenges.
Yeah.
If I'm putting someone in a 1, 2, 4 degree ice bath and it's their first time, they're really going to feel the fear a lot of the time. It's going to be too much of a shock to the system. They're not going to learn anything. They're not going to get time to feel it. You can do it, and some people do it. But like you said, if you've got something that's a little bit warmer, if you can say warmer, a higher temperature, you are going to get someone still feeling the cold. They can stay there a little bit longer. They can learn to breathe without having so much fear and panic override their body. So my thought and the safety with this is getting people to do it mindfully and consciously in a way that they understand what they're trying to achieve. What is it they're aiming for? But again, because it's something that is training you and testing you and giving you some insight and feedback and a chance for you to be truly aligned with the power of what your body's capable of. There's a lot of benefits in doing things that aren't that extreme, but they become a building block for those bigger challenges. So I think a lot of people do it and it's framed in the wrong way. I think that needs to be clear. Your level of hard, if it feels hard to you, is a really great step in the right direction. So never underestimate how powerful that can be.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't need to compare what you're doing to other people at all. No. It's funny. It's it's like I track my HRV and my heart rate, and I look for daily fluctuations in these things. But as soon as anyone hears as soon as someone else who tracks their HRV hears that I do it, they're always like, "Well, what's your HRV?" I'm like, whatever mine is, it's meaningless to you because we're two totally different people. So it's kind of, it doesn't, for me, getting anything below 10 degrees in an ice bath just feels really cold because I really struggle with the cold. That's my biggest challenge. So, I just don't feel any need to compare myself to other people on that level. It's
if you give someone some value, someone listening to this right now that is somewhere they think is not as good as someone else, right? So you're comparing. If it's running, if it's training, if it's body weight, if it's muscle, if it's energy, your starting point needs to be just outside of the comfort zone you're currently in. And that needs to become where you build from. And if you keep showing up, testing that, facing that fear, doing that thing that, yesterday you didn't do, if that's 10 degrees, if that's 15 degrees in a bath, if that's hard for you, and if you keep showing up in that, eventually the proof will be there that you can do that and you're okay. And you feel the benefits and you feel proud and you feel like you've built that discipline and you've kept showing up, that training and that reinforcement, that positive reinforcement, is what's going to allow you then to step up into that next level. I do this with athletes and people that obviously are pushing and want to achieve and be at that highest level. They have to prove to themselves mentally, emotionally, that they're able to deal with that higher level pressure and visualize that they're capable of that next level. Otherwise, there's no point in them going for it if they don't believe they're capable of it, if they've given themselves no proof because they haven't shown up for the foundations of what that training needs to be. So that, depending on what discipline you're talking about, depending on what personal goals you have, you've got to start doing something that feels hard. If you're just doing the same thing that's kept you where you are, you're just going to stay exactly where you are. That might seem really obvious, but some people just never step out of the routine and the habits and the behavior that they have. Their attitude's never going to change because you never tested it. So who you hang around with, who you train with, what training you're doing, you need to pick wisely. Otherwise, you're never going to start. You're never going to get out of the blocks.
Yeah.
If that is just walking out your door in the morning, going for a little walk and taking a few breaths because normally you do nothing, good on you. But do it every day. Prove to yourself that you've got that locked in. And before you know it, you're going to be running. Before you know it, you're going to be looking and feeling very, very different. And I use this, and the reason I say that so passionately is because this is what I'm sharing more than anything else right now, because this is where people are slipping or falling at the first hurdle because they've set the bar way too high. It's not realistic. You've got kids, you've got a busy job, you've got a busy life, you haven't got much energy, you don't know where to start, so you don't even start. Or you give up before you're about to have your breakthrough. So looking at data, it's good to maybe track your steps. It's good to have an idea of what your HRV
I track my steps.
is.
Yeah, it's useful.
But it's good to maybe have a bit of accountability. I like having a smartwatch at the moment just because it's allowing me to track what I'm running and just sort of see, it's interested about, what I'm doing this week.
Yeah.
But it doesn't define who I am. It's me who judges me. And I think a lot of people are looking for that or feeling judged or comparing. And I think it's crippling people because they're overanalyzing what success looks like.
I started tracking steps, and I find it's quite good to hold me accountable. So if it gets to like 7 p.m. and I'm at kind of 7,000 or 8,000 steps, I'm like, oh God, I force myself, like I give myself no choice. I go out for a walk, even if it's like 9 o'clock at night, and I've just got to get to, I set myself 12,000 steps as a target, and it just holds me accountable. And it's very easy just to forget about it. But if every day you're like, okay, I'm just going to do this, and this is my way of just making sure that I do it. And it's become a non-negotiable. It's like 3 meals a day, walk 12,000 steps a day, do X, Y, Z every day. And it's just, it's quite hard to know what you've done without actually counting your steps, I guess. So
otherwise you're guessing.
Yeah. Okay.
So I do believe that, data, feedback, tracking for food as well as for training. If you don't know what you're dealing with, if you don't know what you're looking at, you're just guessing. You're just floating around. You're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna leave energy on the table. You're gonna not always hit the mark.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. So, you, on the topic of ice, you've had a recent adventure to the Arctic. So, what do you want to explain? What were you doing there? It sounded pretty fun, pretty exciting.
Well, I absolutely love North Sweden. I love Sweden as a whole. Always taking very good care of me. Just love the place, the countryside, the nature. The Arctic Circle up in the very north is just a magical place, and I've always wanted to go back there. I went there last year with Volvo to do an event with one of their new vehicles, and just got to explore with these cool snow tires on the car, and just thought, this is amazing.
That sounds
Didn't
so
quite
fun.
see the Northern Lights, and I felt like that was unfinished business. And when we founded Forged, which is a men's community for adventure training, mentorship, seminars, webinars, like a place, a network of people doing great things that sort of felt they were part of something, where I could take men on these trips, where we could create experiences, give them access to people and places that would push them, that would test them, that would expose them to things they maybe wouldn't do on their own. Because that's kind of what I was looking for. And that's what Forged is all about. So our first trip was to the Arctic Circle.
So this is your first one.
We initially were going to push it quite hard to go and do like an ultra, as well as like some shorter distances through the woods, in the cold, in the snow. And what it ended up being was dog sledding, snowshoeing, hiking, ice fishing, breathwork. We had a gym in the middle of nowhere where we would do training and lifting and eating 3 meals a day. We camped out up in the woods. I slept under the stars in a sleeping bag. We ticked a lot of boxes. And when I saw the Northern Lights as well. So it was definitely a massive bucket list ticking trip.
Wow.
And a chance to bond with people in a very powerful way. So yeah, it was a huge success.
It sounds dreamy.
It was
amazing.
Beyond what we could have expected.
Really? So men's community, how many people came
on this trip we had 9. So quite an intimate group. It's me and my co-founder Jax, and we had an Arctic team out there host us, and it's quite a small team, so we could keep it quite tight, and we can also stay in all the cabins at the same time and do the trips all at the same time. Otherwise we'd have to split the groups up. But the Forge group is a global community, so it's people all over the place, and we all connect where we can, and we're starting to build up little communities in different towns, different cities, different countries, with the idea, the values and the intention, and bringing these people together so we can start to do more trips around the world.
Nice. I mean, I feel like every time I speak to you, you're starting some kind of new business or new venture. Like last time we were chatting about XPT. Are you still a XPT coach? That's so for people listening who don't know, that's underwater fitness training, right? Yeah,
it evolved over the years. The pool training was definitely the key training asset that was different to anything I've ever done before. Getting to spend time with Laird and the guys in the US for those few years I was out training there just changed my approach to training and community and connection through training and exploring things that tested you. And the water always tested me. Yeah. And it was a great place to change up how I trained my clients, as well as put on events that would also put people in situations where they could push themselves in a controlled environment, which you couldn't hide from. So XPT, I owe them so much because they took me under their wing. Getting to obviously train and be mentored by Laird and Gabby and the all XPT guys, PJ and Mark and those guys, and people that I've met over the years in the US doing all that training. Brian McKenzie, big inspiration to me. Just a really great human being. All of that training, all of that insight, all of that wisdom, all that mentorship, all of that learning now comes out in many different forms when I do workshops. The businesses that I run or I've started or I'm part of all kind of come under the umbrella of passing this on. Yeah. Some of it's like the Forge thing is something I've always wanted to do, which is just for men. But it's not men's retreats, it's not men's work, it's a community, it's a network of people doing great things already that can be part of something much bigger to get access to things they wouldn't normally get access to, with people they wouldn't normally get access to connect with. And that's what I felt was missing. But in terms of the businesses, XPT, Adapt, Explore, my coaching business, Richie Norton, it's just there's different ways of building it into these different scenarios. Because for me, that's what's missing is the education, is the application of how these things work for people in everyday life. So now from an exec point of view, people that we will know have big jobs, powerful jobs, big responsibilities, lots of pressure, lots of stress. If you neglect your health and you don't understand how to control your nervous system, regulate the system, recover better, manage these stresses, we all get put under so much pressure, something has to give. So these workshops, all these businesses are evolving because I'm seeing all this struggle still, lack of information, lack of clarity, lack of clear application. So now my clients have gone from being just like athletes to the corporate athlete, which is the same training. They're just doing it in an office rather than on a football pitch. But the whole thing carries over. So all the businesses are different ways for me to try and get, anybody to come along and experience these things and then go, oh, I get it now. I can apply this to my own life. And also that was really fun because that's what I need. That's what I want. That's how I want to live. So I'm just trying to share in as many different ways as I can.
Sounds like a very noble purpose you've discovered after quitting rugby. I think, it sounds amazing. Right, I think we're just about coming up to the end of our time. So we ask every guest 3 questions at the end of the podcast. So got 3 final questions for you. So first one is, what's one habit you're trying to stop?
The big one, if I'm being completely honest, is time on my phone. Someone that knows all the things that I know and how much I get other people to leave their phone alone, because that's where most of the time's being wasted and not spent on training and doing the things that I'm asking them to do. Guilty. Because I work on social media, it's a big
so
tool
hard,
for
isn't
me.
it?
And also connecting with people communicate with me in the DMs. It's a networking space as well as a very big distraction. And because my screen time is so high already just for work stuff, I'm trying to leave it alone as much as I can to be able to be more outside and leaving the laptop alone, getting outside of the 4 walls we're stuck in, because that is where I really see the big impact on my health and my sleep and my mood.
So what about when you like take your dogs for a walk? Do you take your phone with you?
Walks,
No phone. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. Okay.
Big one.
Yeah. We had TJ Power on the podcast talking all about phones, and I came away with so many changes that I need to make that I have already made in my life. So no, game changer.
Yeah, TJ gets it right. He's preach.
Yeah. Okay. Second, what's the most overrated piece of health advice?
Ooh, God, I've got loads. Which one do I pick?
You can give me 2 if you want.
I think I want to maybe bring it all together. All the health advice out there, it's hard for me to say which one is going to be right for everybody. It's important that you pick the one that feels right to you, that aligns with what it is you're trying to achieve, and it does make you feel better and you do enjoy it, so you are going to keep it up. Because the biggest thing is people think you've got to do this and you've got to do a bit of that and you've got to make sure you're doing that. You don't have to make sure you're doing anything if it doesn't align with where you're at, doesn't feel good, doesn't feel achievable, manageable, and something you're actually going to want to keep sort of in your life, in your daily routine. Don't overcomplicate it. Shrink the task, because I think people make it a much bigger deal than it needs to be to start feeling so much better and start taking control of your life and feeling like really in control and powerful from it. So there's too many for me to say. There's loads of little gimmicky things. I'm not that fussed about people taking lots of supplements. Most of the stuff you can do naturally if you're smart and you just start to eat with your common sense. And I think I'm just trying to generalize a little bit here, because I don't want to like pick on one thing, because there's loads of little silly little things out there that are just not going to work for everybody.
No, perfect.
But pick something and stick to it, as long as it's something that aligns with where you're at and what you're excited about.
Brilliant. And what's one habit you think those listening should add to their daily life? So if people were to just tomorrow, if they didn't do any of this stuff already, if people were to make one small change to their lives, where should they start?
Better self-awareness. And self-awareness being such a big one, because self-awareness allows you to really understand what you need in that moment. And that way, if you're just starting out, you usually find out that, I shouldn't be on my phone because it's not making me feel very good. I haven't been outside much, so I know I need to go outside and get some fresh air. My breath is with me all day. I'm not aware of it. I'm going to be aware of my breathing to help me navigate the day in a more mindful way so I can control my energy and manage stress. Self-awareness gives you those tools and insights to do that. And that way, hopefully, common sense will guide you down the path of what you probably already know you should be doing. And you just need to start with one thing. Don't add too many things to your list. Just begin. Think about what you are capable of in that moment, right now, and stick with that as a priority. And you usually start to make better decisions as long as it's fueled by the right intentions.
I feel like mindset has been underpinned pretty much everything, is run through everything you've said today. The importance of having the right mindset. Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. Thank you. So before you go, you can, is there anything else you'd like to plug, or, is there any, where can people find you? Like what's going on at the minute that you want to give a shout out to?
Talking about mindset, because it is the biggest unlock. If you can't, master your mind, there's no point pushing anything. Your mind is always going to override anything else if it's not aligned with purpose, without fueled on the right passion, the right intention, the right driver. So yeah, mindset is absolutely key. And I think the only way you're going to do that is by giving yourself the proof that you're capable of more than you think, and then starting to prove that you're able to do the little things consistently so the bigger things become easier. So a big part of this, if we're going to wrap it all up, I created a course, which is an online group course that I personally coach people in. It's called R3, the R3 system. And it's a 3-month course, which is about resetting the nervous system and learning how to do that, and then rebuilding the body from the ground up. And it starts internally, and a mindset adjustment is key in that. That's physical resetting and then rebuilding, and then rising back into your power based on learning these skills and tools to apply it to your life. This is been 6 months me filming this. It's less than most courses. It's everything I've done in the last 15 years compiled into a 3-month intensive. Nice. And by far, that's where everybody should start if they want to work with me, coach with me, mentor with me, learn anything I've ever learned. It's all in there. And I'm there guiding people through it. So if anyone's ever interested, they just need to start in that place.
Cool. And where can they find that? So is that your website,
my website
Richie?
Is probably the best place to go. It's Richie, R-I-C-H-I-E.
Yeah.
At Richie-Norton, Norton.com.
Nice.
Or social media, I'm probably the most active on Instagram, which is Richie Norton _. But yeah, if you just type R3, Richie Norton R3 system, it will come up. And I'll always chat to anybody that wants to get in touch. If someone's really keen to explore this and wants to do the work, you'll have to have a catch up with me anyway, because make sure it is a good fit. I understand exactly where you're coming from, so I can really support people and get some early wins. But by far my best work in the 15 years I've ever done. So if I'm going to push anything, that's going to be the thing that's having a big impact on anybody.
Brilliant. Amazing. Cool. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I'm really happy we managed to finally bring it to life. Yeah. With all your fasting and trips to the Arctic. You've been a busy man.
Start for the year. It's been a busy start for the year.
Wicked. All right. Cheers, mate.
Thanks, bro.